All right. So we have our week 2 of C++. Last week we had our little calculator type thing where you would enter numbers until you got to 100 and then display some sort of message saying you reached or exceeded 100, and it would end there. So that was a very simple little program to get a user input and then do some simple calculations with it. We're doing something a little similar this week, but it's going to be a little more interesting rather than just boring numbers. It should be something that you can have fun with. You can think of this like the Rocket League Choose Your Own Adventure game or stuff like that, where you can take this into a creative direction and make it more interesting. What we're going to be doing is actually making a Mad Lib. If you don't know what Mad Libs are, they are stories that have blanks in them, and then you will fill out the blanks in the story, or you will ask the user to fill out the blanks randomly, and then they will ultimately produce a story that will end up being fairly nonsensical, silly, wacky, zany, epic. A little story that should be pretty interesting to read out. So it's a very simple concept, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you. We'll get a default text. We'll just, for the sake of this example, make it 3 lines long. I'll say, once upon a time, there was a princess, and she loves to eat. We'll just say cake, and then she got fat. Right? Very simple, a little crass, but very simple message. You can do something if you want to. Like, I've seen people who do this, like roses are red, violets are blue. That's sort of making a little rhyming poem with that. But I'm just going to have this very simple text here. Once upon a time there was a princess. She loves to eat cake. She got fat. I guess we'll make this past tense. Keep it accurate. So the Mad Lib would change out specific words in it. So we can change things, and like we'll say, you know what, I don't actually. Well, I'll just go ahead and run this, just so you can see. Once upon a time. Oh, I forgot to do end the line. My mistake. And L at the end. And L. I remember these double less than signs are kind of acting as like a separation for the elements in the code here. All right, so now we see our story here. Once upon a time, there was a princess. She loves to eat cake. She got fat. I'm actually going to change this to some more neutral pronouns because I want to change this to say, well, I don't actually want this to be a princess anymore. I want to make this to be a frog. And it didn't like to eat cake. It liked to eat horses. And it didn't actually get fat. It got soft, right? So that's how the Mad Libs would work. It would automatically do that, and it would just fill in the blanks. So what I'm going to do is kind of show how we could make that. First thing we want to do is get some variables that we're going to establish as strings, and this will be what we're getting our input from. So we're going to say string, starting off right here, and then we have our first word that we're going to change, which is the frog, and that's just a noun. We're going to have a second one. I'm just separate. I could, if I wanted to, do this and then say string and then the next thing, but I'm just going to keep this all in there, separate it all by commas, and have a naming all my variables in one line. The next thing I want to have here is in the second line is a food of sorts. And then in the last line, I want to have an adjective. End it with a semicolon. And now we have initiated our variables to get the inputs from the user. So now we can ask the user for these. We can say cout less than, and we can say enter a noun. I'll just add here person, place, or thing. Actually, I'm going to exclude place because that doesn't really work here. Person or thing. And then we'll have our colon there just for a little space for typing. End it with a semicolon. And then there are two different ways that you can do this. This is what I'm about to do here. And that's to assign what the user inputs to the variable noun. If you wanted to, you could do something similar to what we did in the last example, which was cin noun. Simple like that. But I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use getLine, all one word. I'm going to say cin, which is, again, like that, the input. And then I'm going to say noun. Now what this will do is it'll get the entire line that is inputted. It's essentially going to be the same result, but just a different way you can do it. Now, like I say, a good coder isn't lazy, but they do make good use of their time. We're using as much code as possible. So I'm going to copy paste that and get these new lines in here. So I can just save some time on typing. And we'll say enter an adjective describer. Something like that. Right, so now we have our user that's input a noun, a food, and an adjective. But if we ran this, oh, I forgot to put these semicolon there. All right. Now if we run it, I can give it a person, place, or thing. I'll say cat. I'll say food is sausage. Oh, and describer will be dumb. But you can see it didn't actually take that. It found these and it applied the variables, but didn't actually put it into our story. That's because we still have just strings here. So what we need to do is break up what we're outputting here. Now, I like to have spaces in between all the chevron shape with the less than, just so it's a little bit easier to read. What I'm going to do is I cut out frog here, and I'm going to separate the elements, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to enter in the noun here. So now in this output, it'll display after once upon a time there was a. Once it finishes that string, it'll output the noun string. And then we'll change this. We'll get rid of that last bit. Separate the elements here. We'll put food there. And then we'll change this last one. And add our adjective. I'm going to change the wording here so it's a little clearer. So now, as we do this, we should be able to run it, get a person, place, or thing, and I'll say giraffe. A food will be dirt, and describer will be long. So now, once upon a time, there was a giraffe. It loved to eat dirt. It became long. So that could be the origin of giraffes' long necks, if you wanted to. So it's that kind of thing where you can make this be something a little silly, a little nonsensical. But something that isn't really well displayed here in this example is how to embed these variables within these plain text. So if you wanted to, you can just think of this as everything in between here is one element, between here is one element, and then you can do things like, I'm going to add an extra line here, and we can say too much, and then I'm going to add my food here, and then we'll make you add the space there just for formatting, and then I'll add my adjective. So the, and then split it again. The noun shouldn't have eaten so much, right? And that is, now I have made this very long, and it has significantly more elements to it. Finish it off with the end L again. It has significantly more elements to it, but you'll see that it still will work the same. We'll get our, I'll just use wolf, grass, hungry. So you can see I didn't actually give this great spacing here. There we go. So now you can see at the end there, too much grass will make you hungry, so the wolf shouldn't have eaten so much. Grammar is a little funky with the words I chose, but you can see what I'm saying as you are separating everything with these symbols here. Now, this is where the assignment for this week kind of comes to a conclusion as far as my requirements go, right? Where you take this is entirely up to you. If you want this to be something, whatever theme you want to have, whatever objects you use, like whatever, what you plug in, however you want to format it, that kind of thing, you are free to do so. If you want it to be funny, which I do recommend, because making them is a lot more enjoyable when you know the output will be at least somewhat funny. But this is the point where I stop being, there's no recipe to make a good Mad Lib. You just want to have a lot of different inputs. And you can see this is very simple code here. This is actually pretty much all stuff except for this right here, which is just different formatting. It's all code that we've already used before. So you are completely free to take this whatever direction you want. With that said, that's actually all the new stuff that I wanted to show you for this week. I did want to remind you, if you're starting on REPL, which you may have noticed I'm obviously not using REPL this week, it was being frustrating and slow, so I just switched to this one. It usually will include the hashtag include IOStream, but it may not include the using namespace STD. If you do not have the using namespace STD in front of every C out and C in, you will need to go and put STD : : But because I do have this namespace, I don't have to do that. Highly recommend. It saves you a lot of time, a lot of typing, and especially when you're doing simple projects like this that have a lot of output or inputs. So that is all I officially have for this week. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me. And good luck on your assignments. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of Mad Libs you will create in the coming week. Take care.